spiritual bypassing is not a topic that you hear people talk about at all, but we need to talk about it. Spiritual bypassing has been defined by John Wellwood, a Buddhist and psychotherapist. He defines it: the tendency to use spiritual ideas and practices to sidestep or avoid facing unresolved emotional issues, psychological wounds, and unfinished developmental tasks. Now we're all human and we are just learning to be human. There is a quote that says that we are spiritual beings learning how to have a human experience. It can be awkward and clunky and messy, and I think all of us as humans have defense mechanisms and ways that we cope with difficult situations and the world around us. It's easy to see a coping mechanism as perhaps alcoholism, addiction to drugs, intimate connections, video games, just general escapism that we all have the tendency to tap into from time to time. But doing this in a spiritual way can also equally be a coping mechanism. And this is what needs to be talked about. Being naive to spiritualism, and that spiritualism will kind of save you and save your soul, and if you do these things you will be enlightened and you'll never have a negative thought and you'll always be perfect and beautiful and wonderful and all these things. And it's detrimental to the human trying to figure out how to be a human while feeling like they need to jump these hoops and be perfect as well at the same time. What are some signs of spiritual bypassing, and are you guilty of them? I know I've been guilty of a couple of these as well. Avoiding bad feelings such as anger, grief, loss, etc. Only focusing on the positive and the good in things and people and situations. Encouraging other people to think positively to overcome their problems. Pretending things are fine and good, but they're not. Thinking that you must rise above your emotions and you can never have a negative thought. Thinking that you are more spiritual or more enlightened than someone. All traumatic events serve as learning opportunities and are there for a reason. Sometimes just bad shit happens. Dependency on meditation and prayer. Extremely high, often detached idealism. Detachment or escapism, like we said, using defense mechanisms such as denial and repression. And living on a spiritual cloud, never being in the present moment, always on this cloud of positivity and beautiful things and sunshine, rainbows, and never in grounded reality. So when life gets hard, we turn to these healthy so-called habits, perhaps diving into self-help books after self-help books, or reading tarot cards after tarot cards after tarot cards, or constantly needing reaffirmation in the Bible or in text. There's this need to always feel like you're doing something, or you're doing more than someone else, or you're connected better because you've read all these books, or you meditate daily and so you have a connection that's better than people. You know, it's this kind of need to use tools in an unhealthy way, in an addictive way. Just as we wear masks when we go out into the world and someone asks us how we're doing and we say, "Oh, I'm fine," you don't really say how you're actually doing. This can also be true in the spiritual community, that everything is fine, everything is great. If you have one negative thought, you will ruin your manifestations and everything will come crumbling down. And it's just, oh my gosh, it's exhausting to be in the spiritual community and feel like everything has to be a performance. You always have to be doing something. You always have to be self-improving yourself. You always have to be deepening and honing and sharpening this thing that's already innate in all of us. This beautiful just acceptance. This beautiful just everything is because it is, and dropping the ego away. Being on that spiritual high horse is your ego as well. And so it's this tripped up society where you're not allowed to mess up. You're not allowed to make a mistake. You're not allowed to have a negative thought, which if you're not allowed to have a negative thought, that means you're just stuffing down the emotion and you're not feeling the emotion. How is that healthy for anyone? As well as people that are looking to get more spiritual and perhaps are going through a hard time. This sets the bar so high that it feels like if you have anxiety, depression, or ADHD or anything like that, or you're dealing with grief, these heavy, intense emotions, it feels like, well, I can never reach this because I'm not allowed to feel these things. But counterintuitively, feeling the feelings actually helps you process it, so then you're able to feel better. Uncomfortable feelings are there for a reason. It's your body and your soul's way of trying to tell you something. Perhaps something's not working. Perhaps you're not vibing with that person anymore. Whatever it is, like, your body is communicating to you. And so to ignore these feelings and to stuff them down, like, how is that helpful for you to be able to make choices and take the right steps, change jobs or change friendships or have hard conversations if you don't have these feelings? It's not natural to be happy all the time and positive all the time. It's okay to have bad days. It's okay to feel emotions. And emotions, honestly, we only feel the feeling of the emotion for only 1 minute, maybe like minute and a half, and then it is gone. But we hold on to this feeling because we need to have some kind of control, or we like to complain, or we like to, do all these things. But the emotion itself, honestly, scientifically, only is with us for 90 seconds. That's it. Then it's gone. It's on to something else. We hold on to it. This constant need to always be positive, like, for example, if you lose a loved one and you have bereavement leave for 3 business days in the US, commonly, you're expected to go back to work and function as normal on the same level that you left, even though now you have a loved one that has passed, which is a extreme point and pivot in your life. Like, that is not just a small thing. That is huge, as well as heartbreak is up there with really detrimental moments in our life. And grief and heartbreak go hand in hand together, but yet we so quickly want to wash away these feelings and be back to normal. And then that again creates this toxic pattern of always trying to be forcing positivity down your throat. I get a kick out of these. Some common phrases of spiritual bypassing. Everything happens for a reason. I'm guilty of saying that one. It was for the best. It was a blessing in disguise. Good vibes only, man. And thoughts and prayers. I think the most spiritual thing you can do as a human is to be human and allow yourself to be messy and feel these feelings and go through these emotions. And when things get hard, let them be hard. When things are good, let them be good. I feel like there needs to be a release that everyone has to put on this performance. Even out of the spiritual community, we have enough of that in our society that we need to fit in and perform and do XYZ, or we're not considered worthy. We just need to accept that this performance doesn't work anymore. These masks don't fit us anymore. And we need to get honest with how we are doing and how we're feeling. And I think it's going to take some time for our society and the spiritual community at large to break free of this egotistical, just shove it down, it's gonna be fine. So, what do you think of spiritual bypassing? Have you done it? Are you guilty of it? I'm a little guilty of it as well. Comment down below where you've been guilty of spiritual bypassing, and let's be honest with each other. Like, how are you actually doing today? Like, what is on your heart, what is on your soul, how are you coping with things. Like, let's start conversations of honesty down below, even if they're uncomfortable, because we need to be there for each other. And I think that's important to have this communication. Yeah. And that's all I have for you. Until next time, take care of yourself. Bye.